We are technological
So
wizards.
you guys are all going to be our guinea pigs today. So we're trying something new, and we actually did this presentation for our elite agent contribution to Real Broker about 3 years ago. This is the only thing we taught. So we thought we would rip off and duplicate our old slideshow. You can kind of see a little bit. So,
Morning, morning, Dave. I'm going to hit the chat button. See where's it. Cool, it did it.
oh, sweet. Now, the
How
thing that
did we know what we're
since you
doing?
guys are guinea pigs, what we want to make sure is that you can actually see the screen of the dominating a geographic farm. Can you
Blue.
see
Yes.
that?
Yep.
You got to be kidding me. So we can actually see people and you can actually see the screen. All right.
Yep.
Oh, technological
We
wizard,
we
David.
we are burning we are
On
burning with
fire.
fire. So just
Looks
real
like we
quick,
had another one. We had another one join, Deborah.
I see we can see
Yep,
that
we can
now.
see
Yeah.
everybody
Okay,
now.
good, good.
Yeah, we have a dual screen situation that we're playing with that we haven't done in the past either. So we're doing a little thing, and I'm 61. She's actually older than me, so technology for us is it's a learning process. So what we're going to talk about today is going to be one of the things that has given me the most amount of business in my career, and it's called. And basically, what we're saying is
We were so excited about
it's basically geographical farming, and this is it, go ahead and go to the next slide so you can
hang
kind of a
on.
little bit about us.
I was busy. This piece of paper. Look,
So
it's
this
Dave.
that just kind of says a little bit about myself. You know, I'm one of 12 kids born and raised in Ann Arbor. I started my first geographic farm in Ypsilanti Township. So back in 1993, I did. There was a new construction neighborhood, and they didn't really do a whole lot of co-oping with realtors. So I thought that would be a great place to do my first geographical farm. And then I got lucky that a friend of mine had the first listing in the neighborhood, first resale listing. She got out of the business and said, Dave, would you like to take over this listing? And I said, absolutely. And so what ended up happening is I ended up selling that. We're still competing against new construction, but I learned, how to, basically put that house up against new construction. How I could sell a new construction home as opposed to new construction. We ended up listing 78 of the first 100 resales within the neighborhood. And over the past 33 years, we have sold over 300 houses in that particular neighborhood. So, does geographical farming work? Let me put it this way: it paid my mortgage for many years. Now, I also, it was one of my great successes, but also one of my great failures. And I'm going to go over that real quickly. Was one of the things that ended up happening later in my career is I started listing some $1 million houses in Ann Arbor. Ypsilanti's right outside Ann Arbor, connects. Ann Arbor, I ended up listing like 5 houses over $1 million in Ann Arbor. And I started getting cocky and started thinking, hey, I'm just going to take over the $1 million market in Ann Arbor. Then the market changed, market shifted, and everyone went back to the old people that were, or the older people that were already doing business there. I went back into Ypsilanti and tried to regain that traction. And guess what happened? Never regained it. So, but and the other part about us is I was one of the first realtors in all of Washtenaw County to form a team. I ended up at one time was carrying 40 listings and needed, had buyers coming up out of the wazoo. End up having someone that just kind of jokingly said, "Hey, you need an assistant. I'd like to be your assistant." I ended up doing that. My company had no idea how to do it, but he figured it out. So, anyways, so over the past 33 years, we've sold actually 5,500 homes. This was back about 2, 3 years ago, and about 1.5 billion. So that's about us. So we
It's
do.
actually nothing about me, but that's okay.
Kathy can tell you about, well, Kathy runs
Don't do
BMA.
it.
So
Don't bother.
well, let's go to the next one. So what we're going to basically talk about today is identifying your geographical farm. And this is going to be extremely important. There's going to be some criteria that we want to look at. There's different ways that you can hit your geographical farm. It's not just direct mail. It's not just email. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can hit this geographical farm. And like we were talking about earlier, I'm not sure again because I only saw Josh, is one of the things I think is going to be extremely important as we move forward in the real estate world is AI and technology is taking over. Okay. But what it's doing is it's taking over on more of a superficial level. Okay. You're not able to make a whole lot of deep connections. And I'm not sure if you kind of heard about my analogy that I use with Josh is what the end goal of geographical farming is to become the Kleenex of the area that you're farming. And what I mean by that is when you blow your nose with, and again, if you ask someone, what are you blowing your nose with? A lot of times people will say, I'm Kleenex, dude. No, you're blowing your nose with facial tissue, but most people are going to call it Kleenex because Kleenex, the brand, has done such a good job of associating their name with facial tissue because of their branding, right? So what the end goal of all of this is that when someone's thinking about buying or selling in your particular neighborhood, you want to be someone that they're going to call when they want to do that, okay? And that's what some of these strategies are going to help you with as well. And then number 4 is going to be some must-dos of geographical farming. And I'm going to give one of them away, which is if you don't make a 12-month commitment to doing a geographical farm, it's probably not going to be worth your time. And we'll talk about reticular activating system and things like that. All right. So the first thing that we want to talk about is identifying your geographical farm. All right. And there's going to be some questions that you're going to ask yourself. All right. And so the first thing you want to ask yourself is there already a dominant realtor in the neighborhood? Okay. And now, if this is your own neighborhood, okay, you live in a particular neighborhood and you have a dominant realtor, I would still geographically farm your area, okay? But let's say there's another area that you're looking at, or there's not a dominant realtor, that's definitely a geographical farm you'll want to take on. Now, the reason why you probably don't want to take on one where someone already dominates that neighborhood, like in that one particular neighborhood where I probably had 80 to 85% of the market share, to make a 12-month commitment to compete against me after I'd already done all that branding and already had such a presence in the area, it's going to make it harder to break into that area. Can you? 100%. And there was another realtor that did that. They finally challenged me after about a year and a half, and he came in and took market share. Okay. But the first thing I would do, and since then we've probably tried 15 to 20 different geographical farms. Right now we geographically farm my whole city that I live in. But if there's already a dominant realtor, again, path of least resistance. Find one where there's not someone that has a dominant market share. Does that make sense? The next thing we want to look at is what is the turnover in the area? Is there enough turnover where I can get a positive ROI on my investment? Okay. So if you have a particular neighborhood, and unfortunately right now this is tough because there's not a whole lot of turnover going on anyways. Right now we have half the deals, we're seeing half the deals that we saw 20, 30 years ago. So there's 50% cut in inventory from what there was 20, 30 years ago. But what you want to see is you want to see a fair amount of turnover in the neighborhood that you can have a chance at getting some listings in the neighborhood. Again, in your own particular neighborhood that you live in, 100% you should be farming that neighborhood. Every single person should be farming their own particular neighborhood and making sure that people remember that they are a realtor, okay? So as far as the turnover, we used to like to see 10%. So in that one particular neighborhood, there were 670 homes in that neighborhood. We'd want to see about 60 homes being turned over within a 12-month period. Right now, we're probably 3 to 4%. Okay, so in that 673 home neighborhood, we'd want to see somewhere between 18 and 25 homes turning over. And again, if there's not a whole lot of turnover, the chances of you getting a positive ROI with some of the stuff that you're going to do is going to be more difficult. All right. So I'm assuming that makes sense to everybody. The next thing that I would ask myself is, why do I want to farm this area? So obviously, your own particular neighborhood, it's because of the fact that you're going to have familiarity with the neighborhood. You're going to be coming into contact with people, walking your dog or your kids, or what the different aspects of it. And so the other thing that I look at is there's certain neighborhoods where I really like the architectural style. Like in Ann Arbor, we've got a place called Burns Park, and these are 1920s type houses and are gorgeous houses. In Ypsilanti, there's a place called Normal Park, which has similar type of houses. So it may be just you like the particular style of houses. It may be a younger demographic that appeals to you. For us, we like an older. We like the
Silver tsunami.
Yeah, the silver tsunami mark, which are the people that are probably 60 years of older. We particularly like those particular neighborhoods because that's more of our demographic that we kind of go toward.
So two of the neighborhoods that Dave mentioned, we're in a college town. The next little town Ypsilanti he's talked about is also a college town. And think about, I mean, if you're new to this, what did you do before? If I was a teacher or I was connected to Eastern Michigan University, which is in Ypsi, I'd be going in the area where those professors are. If I was connected to the University of Michigan, I'd be looking at those kind of things. Think, what do I know? Who might I know in there? How might I connect with those people?
The other thing would be is let's say you're a younger realtor, right? And you might really enjoy the neighborhoods that are more newer construction, or a lot of first-time home buyers are there, things like that, that you're going to have a lot of things in common with them. Or let's say you just bought your first house. So I bought my first house in 1992. I got in the business in 1993. I was 27 years old when I did it. So I kind of gravitated toward people within Ypsilanti because I decided to buy in Ypsi rather than Ann Arbor, even though I was born and raised in Ann Arbor. And then I gravitated toward a lot of first-time home buyers because I had just been through the process. And I thought that I could give a lot of good knowledge and pass that along to somebody and give them that information to help. And I had the empathy of what a first-time home buyer had to go through. Now it's kind of the opposite. We prefer areas where it's people that have been in there and established. They're thinking about either downsizing or going to assisted living, things like that. I'm 61 years old, and so I have a tendency, I know where they're at in life. I know what they're kind of thinking about of next stages. And so I have a tendency, and I know Kathy has an affinity toward that older generation as well. So
the other thing, it's one of my biggest pieces of my C of I was, and if you have kids, you probably know this, was where my kids went to school. My daughter was an elite athlete. Those people were my C of I. I look around and think school. So we're all at the same middle school. Find a connection. If you live in that area, because there's school of choice probably everywhere under the sun. Now think about where your kids' friends are. Those people, those parents are going to be your closest friends for the next 16 years, right? So there's just, how can I connect and establish a relationship with the people in the area I want to be?
And this is going to kind of tie into number 4. So let's move on to number 4. And it's going to be, what is my hook that will give me a competitive advantage? So Kathy was kind of referring to that. And then, when I'm looking at your own particular neighborhood, would you agree that if you live in a particular neighborhood, that someone that lives in that neighborhood would probably think that you have kind of an incentive to sell for as much money as possible? Because not only does it benefit them, it benefits you as well. And then the other part of living in a particular neighborhood, I'm assuming that there's going to be an assumption by the people within the neighborhood that you're probably going to have a very good knowledge of the neighborhood that you live in, right? And you know what's going on. You understand the HOA, and you understand the rules of the HOA, so you're able to explain that. And then, when you're going to talk to different buyers, you're able to say, these are the great things about this property in this neighborhood. And then the other part that you can really go into is, there's a reason why we chose to live in this neighborhood, right? And to me, you have so much validity and credibility when you're coming from a point where you went through the same thing the buyers are going through right now, and you chose this particular neighborhood. So, if I'm in a particular neighborhood and I wasn't a realtor, I'd be looking for a realtor that lived within my neighborhood, because I think that they could market that property, represent that property in that neighborhood better than anybody else. Does that make sense? The other thing would be
You're
is,
supposed to breathe long enough for them to answer.
so the other thing would be is, like I said, we talked about a younger demographic, an area where there's first-time home buyers. And let's say you just bought your first home. That's going to give you that empathy. You just went through the same process. That gives you validity and credibility that you're going to understand what they're going through. Okay. And then let's say, you're in Florida and it's a 55 plus community. I would think that the best person probably to help you sell those 55 plus communities would be someone 55 plus. And so it gives you a hook, it gives you an advantage over other realtors. And that's the thing that we want to do, is that we want to go into it with certain advantages that will help you get the listing. All right. Number 5, is the number of homes I will be farming manageable for consistency? And the reason we're talking about that was I get a lot of people that call me and they say, Dave, I want to do a 10,000 person farm. Okay. And it's their first farm. It's their first farm. They haven't done any geographical farming before. I think it's going to be pretty hard to do a 10,000 person farm and do it consistently for a minimum of 12 months. So my suggestion is, on your first geographical farm, first of all, make it very personal, meaning have it be one that you live in the neighborhood, or let's say it's your parents' neighborhood that lives nearby, or it's a friend's neighborhood, or you've got kids at school and 15 of them live in a particular neighborhood. I would stick to probably somewhere between 100 and 500 homes to begin with, and probably or 1,000 at most for my first geographical farm. And you're going to understand that when we talk about the different ways to hit them as well. All right. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I got a couple of things to add to the next one.
And then number 6 is the price range for my geographical farm area comfortable for me. So here's one of the other things that I get from people that want to do geographical farming is they want to, Dave, I want to do a million, I want to farm million plus houses. And they grew up in a $100,000 to $200,000 working class neighborhood. They live in a 150,000 price neighborhood, and that's kind of what they know and what they're comfortable in. But yet they see these luxury, listings and designations and things like that, and they immediately want to get a million plus, right? Very, very few people that are working consistently in $100,000 to $200,000. Very few realtors are going to be comfortable moving to $1 million plus, and it's going to be they're going to feel intimidated and things like that. And until you get into the business and understand kind of what's going on in that particular neighborhood and what it takes to get listings in those neighborhoods. So my suggestion is, for your first few geographical farms, is farm areas that the price range is one that you're very comfortable in. It may be, and I see a lot of it where it's the price point you grew up in. It might be middle class or $100,000 to $300,000 price range. that was it for me. I grew up in a very middle-class neighborhood, $100 to $300,000 working class neighborhood. That was what I was most comfortable in.
It is now, wasn't then.
Well, yeah. No. Now the neighborhood I grew up in, well, my family, that $100,000 house is now 400 to 500,000. So, but get something that you're comfortable in to begin with. Then, as you start farming, and then you will naturally move toward higher price points. But by all means, if you grew up in an affluent neighborhood and your contacts are in an affluent neighborhood, by all means, go for that price point. But the thing that I find is that a lot of people pretend that they can work in certain price points, and that's just not the case.
It's not that you can't get there. It's just not. It's just that if you want to start it and not be like climbing uphill constantly, just start where you are. Start where you are, and how many times we say this in there? Just be yourself. So much easier to be yourself, and yourself is going to grow. You're going to learn.
And I think one of the biggest problems with technology and AI, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, is to me, being authentic is the number one thing that you can do to get business, and who you are and what you're comfortable in, and the skin that you're comfortable in. That's going to be your differentiator. It's going to differentiate you from other people. To me, the technology and the AI, you lose a lot of the authenticity. All right. And I know for a fact already where people hire us because we're very authentic. We're very true to ourselves. And I think that's going to be the key moving forward too with all this AI. Because what's going to end up happening with AI and technology is that, what used to be the 80-20 rule when I got in the business in 1993, which is 20% of the realtors did 80% of the business. Today, that is a 90-10 rule, which is 10% of the realtors do 90% of the business. Within 2 years, that will probably be 95-5. And with AI and technology, because what's happening is now these top producers that are doing all this business, what they can do now is they can duplicate themselves, and they can look like it's them talking on, they can put themselves out in all these different social medias with their avatar, and it is going to make a difference. So how are you going to stand out? Your authentic self. So any questions on identifying your geographic farm? Is there any questions on that? Or is it all pretty straightforward? Let's
pretty
move
straightforward. I think it's very insightful.
Perfect. So the next thing we're talking about is the types of geographic farming. Okay. So back in the old days, when I started geographic farming, it was pretty much all direct mail. And we did a lot. But the funny thing is now do you guys know what EDDM is? Every door direct mail. Does anybody know what EDDM is?
Haven't heard that one.
All right. So every door direct mail is something that you should, if you're thinking about doing geographical farming, is something that you should get to know. And what every door direct mail is, and we'll get to, finding your data to input to start a geographic farm, is with what every door direct mail is what you can do is you can start putting, your marketing and advertising, and then you give it to the post office, and they'll hit certain postal routes with that information. And it's like 50% cheaper than sending a direct postcard into a neighborhood. And so one of the things that I said I do is I geographically farm my city.
Your zip code.
I live in a neighborhood, it's called Pinckney, Michigan. There's 9,300 residents in Pinckney, Michigan. It'd be pretty expensive to send out a mailing every month to 9,300 people. Wouldn't you agree?
Using first class mail, yes.
First class mail. We can send every door direct mail, which is they'll send to every postal route, and it's not to it just goes to every single person on that postal route, which is the whole zip code of 48169. we can send in a big old postcard to 9,500 people, 9,300 people for about $3,300 to $3,500. And so a lot of people go, oh my God, that's a lot of money. And I get it 100%. When I first got started, I couldn't afford that. And I hand address stuff, and we used to have to send, we had to do batch mail, and it was ridiculous.
To the post office on pink paper.
But think about that. I can send out 9,500 pieces of mail, and let's say I get one listing from that mailing. And again, it used to be 5 years ago, I sent out 9,500 pieces, 9,300 pieces, I would get 10 calls. Today, I might get 2 or 3. But my average price point in my area is about $300,000. 3% commission's $9,000. Who here would spend $3,500 to get $9,500 in return? Most people would do that. And then think about trying to hit 9,500 people by phone or by door knocking or things like that. So direct mail, you hear a lot of people saying that it doesn't work. It doesn't work as well as it used to, but we still love direct mail for that reason we talked about. And then the other part that's interesting too is that just gets in front of people. When we go for listing appointments, I see a lot of these cards on their desk when I go there. Okay. But what type of direct mail do you want to send? Annual reports, meaning this is what happened in your neighborhood for the past 12 months. Sale data, days on market, average sales price, things like that, right? You're sending something of value that the neighbors want to know about. Just listeds and just solds, a lot of people say they're a waste of time. I disagree. I believe that, especially on just solds, you need to celebrate your successes. And so you want to send a just sold into that particular neighborhood that you sell something. We send a just sold into every single listing we get. And it's probably more of a spray and pray on a lot of them because it's not our geographical farm. But what will a lot of times will happen is we may sell something in a 600 home neighborhood that we are not geographically farming. We send out the just sold. We get one person that contacts us off that card. And then what ends up happening is then we get the listing, then we do all the other marketing, then we send more, and then we start getting more traction. So I would do just solds as much as you can. And then
we haven't done.
It's a good way to get in front of your people. I mean, it's another excuse to get in front of your people, repetition.
100%. And one of the things that we do we're not as good with the just listeds because our things sell so quickly here in Ann Arbor. But I do use that on my marketing plan, saying we will send out a just listed if the house hasn't sold within the first few days. Because what we find is that some of the best sources of leads that we find in marketing are the neighbors. Who knows that neighborhood better than anybody else? It's the neighbors. So that's why we want to send out just listeds. And again, that's just getting in front of people, especially when you're first getting started in a neighborhood. I would do just listeds and just solds to get your name out there. So in some neighborhoods, we've sold 300 houses. I don't need to send out just listeds because they
see the sign.
They already know the brand. Okay. And really at the end of the day, what this is all about, it's branding, and you're the brand. Not Real Broker is not the brand. Chris Cochran's the brand. Joshua Parrish is the brand. Deborah Green's the brand. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get your brand out there. So the next one that you can do is email. So, but try to be more personalized and provide valuable information. Getting back to the top one, send something of value. Most of the time, they're not going to open them. We find it you can AI generate these emails today, and I have to confess, I probably send out 25 to 30 AI generated emails a day, but those are usually to the ones that are my B, C, or D type leads, meaning that I've never really connected with them. So I'm trying to make a connection. But my A and B buyers and sellers, I'm going to send a personalized email, and I'm going to tell them, hey, this is what's going on in your neighborhood. This is what has been selling, in providing something of value.
If
Okay.
you're thinking about how you're going to get this information for your geographic farm, a lot of our MLSs have the ability to do that. Ours does here in Michigan. Otherwise, there's places you can go to get that kind of
And
info.
we will also discuss, the different ways to get the data. So that will be on this as well. And the other part that I want to say before I go on to the next one is you're not just trying to do one thing, right? You're trying to do a bunch of different things. And then what's going to end up happening is kind of throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. There's going to be certain areas. So, Josh is in, you said Virginia, right?
Yep. Lexington.
Yep. So it may be the handwritten note approach because Josh said that they don't like AI and stuff like that. It's more of a personalized approach. It may be handwritten notes. It may be a personal email. It may not be direct mail. But you may want to follow up with one of these different things. So it's not one thing that you're doing. You want to do all these different types of things. And then you're going to find out what works for you. Okay. So the next one is phone calls. So I'm going to confess I'm not as great with phone calls, just because I love being in front of people and seeing people and stuff like that. And I can't read body language or get a feel for things. But there's the best part about phone messages is I tell everybody is you want to misconstrue something, send a text, send an email. You want to have a direct conversation and know exactly what people are thinking and saying and things like that, have a phone call. And today, it's tough for people to pick up, but for the people that and the people that become within your center of influence, which are people that you currently know that might buy or sell through you because they already know you and trust you, phone calls are a great way to touch base with them. Because so many people are just texting and emailing and all this other stuff. It's a great way to make a personal touch. Okay.
Agree with that. My inside sales background for the last 2 decades is going to help with that.
Absolutely. And it's just something too and the other part too is don't sell somebody and and my other big thing is don't call and say, hey, do you know one thing about buying or selling real estate? Don't forget me. You can say that toward the end or something. Hey, I see it every day where people do that. It's kind of like, hey, Chris, dude, man, it's been about, God, we haven't talked to each other for about 3 months. I just want to check in and see how the kids were doing. I know that you were finishing up the softball league. How did you end up doing? What'd you end up batting? How's Katie, the wife? And you said that your dog was in heat and you're going to have another pup. Did you have some pups? And then you just start talking about stuff. And then what will end up happening is toward the end of the conversation, they're going to ask you how you're doing. And a lot of times they'll just ask you about real estate. And it's not fake it till you make it. You really care about these people. You want to know what's going on. And that's how you build these relationships. Okay. And I'd much rather do business with somebody that reaches out to me like that. And I get people reaching out to me to sell me shit all the time. And that's just, that doesn't work. And people do business with people they know and trust, and that you don't have an ulterior motive to contact them. Now, in your head, you may be thinking the only reason I'm doing this is to get some business, but there is something that you kind of like them. You kind of like them. Don't sell them anything. Just show that you care. Nobody cares what you know until they know you care. Period. That's how I run my business. All right. So social media groups. So we're talking about your own particular neighborhood. I guarantee you there's a Facebook group for your neighborhood. Let's say you want to do older people, older retirees or things like that. Find retiree Facebook pages or Nextdoor pages. I am not a fan of Nextdoor because most of the time I get in those Nextdoor chats or it's just people bitching and moaning the whole time. And so it brings me down. But Facebook, love it. Love to get into those neighborhoods. And then the other part is if you're going to be in these Facebook groups, interact, talk with them, give them something of value. Again, do not try to sell them though, but let them know that you're a realtor though. but don't try to sell them or anything. Get some data of that.
No, it's just part of it was getting into, if you're farming your neighborhood, which sure makes it a lot easier to get into those Facebook groups. I am in Facebook groups for 2 houses ago that happened to be in that area that we worked in a long time. But it's just, you can get in them. They're going to be a little protective, but if it's your neighborhood, you should be able to get in them or start one.
And all these things should be in your heads like, oh, I see how that could help my brand. I see how that could help connect with the other thing that I want to do. And you want to do all these different things to build that brand, because once you build that brand, you're not going to have to do as much. You're going to have to stay in front of people, but right now you're building the brand, especially if you're newer in the business. Like if you look behind here, right? Can you guys see? I don't know if you can see behind here. Can you see the DMA real estate? Can you see that? I don't. Yeah. So unfortunately, with all these,
Yep.
DMA real estate's my brand, right? You'll see that everywhere. Signs, social media, direct mail, things like that. Over here is Real Broker. That's not my brand. Okay. DMA real estate is. Now, if you don't, so,
It's all right.
but so initially your brand is Chris Cochran or Joshua Parrish. The other part that what I would kind of think about, what is your brand going to be in 5 years? So I'll tell you one of the big mistakes that I made early on was I got the domain davidmueller.com, right? This was back when they first started having domains. And I got davidmueller.com. And so my brand was David Mueller. But then when I started getting people coming to work with me and they were going out to work with the buyers and stuff, they were expecting David Mueller, right? So then I went to David Mueller and Associates. And then it's sounded like a law firm. And then people had to spell Mueller and Associates and all this kind of stuff. And then I started thinking, well, I want to basically one day, I would like not to be in production. Okay. And so when someone's calling David Mueller and Associates, they're still expecting David Mueller to show up, right? Now, DMA real estate. So if it's DMA real estate, if it's Kathy Fourier going out, they're not thinking, David or Kathy with DMA real estate, right? So one of the things that if I could go back, I would be DMA real estate then. And my brand would have been that DMA real estate all along. Each time I had to rebrand and I lost momentum and I lost business. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Think about what your brand is going to be in 5 to 10 years. If you can think that far ahead, and just think about that as well. Does that make sense? Number 5, we've got someone here. It's handwritten notes. One of the best things that you can do is and we've got someone that Kathy admires in our Ann Arbor area. His assistant locks him in his office every day, and he has to write 10 handwritten notes to clients before that she will unlock the door to let him out. He has to write 10 handwritten notes. How many handwritten notes have you guys gotten from somebody in your mailbox in the past year?
Very few. And I will say I can speak to the power of that. In inside sales, you're obviously virtual and kind of separated by the distance between you and my client, maybe in California, I'm in Tennessee, et cetera. That's where I was born and raised, was in Tennessee. But the handwritten notes to every client on some kind of cadence, either just saying, hi, thank you, appreciate your business, or asking for referrals, those kinds of things make a really big difference. It's just a human touch to a virtual world.
100%. And that last part was the big part. And you can see I love technology and AI and all the things that it can do. But I already know where my niche is coming from and how I get my business. It's the personal touch. It's these different types of things that we do. And we pick up the phone and just call people sometimes. I just call, and I'm not a big phone call person, like I told you, but especially the people this is another thing that I want to let you know too. And especially if you're newer, what will happen is we have 40,000 people in our database. Okay. We've sold 5,500 homes and 1.5 billion. That's what, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. But the big thing is, let me tell you, we have about 10 clients that refer us the majority of our business. And you will find that you will have 10 to 15 cheerleaders that will be referring you a majority of your business. Okay. You want to give them that white glove service. I call them up. I invite them out to lunch. Hey, I miss you guys, and I just like to take you out to lunch. And when I did that last, these people have probably just in the past 2 years, we've gotten 5 deals from them. From hey, don't call anyone but Dave. And then last time I went out with them and took them out to lunch, they said, "Hey, Dave, I just gave your name out to this person, so when they call you, just be aware of that." And then the other group, which is their sisters, said, "Yeah, my next door neighbor, the one we just sold, they said they're using you and they're going to sell next year." Okay, so those are the ones I'll do the handwritten notes. I call them, and I'm kind of a weirdo. I'll go, yo, what's up, Janet, man? It's been a long time. How you doing? They're older than me, but they just know me. That's me, right? And they love, the energy and things like that. So, but personal touch will set you apart, 100%. The next one is get involved in your area, right? Host local events and charity events. So if they're doing a dog, like the Humane Society is doing a dog walk or something, go join the event. If you're a big dog person and that's something that you like, go do that. If you like working out the gym, and let's say do some the activities at the gym. If you're into antiquing and stuff like that, do stuff there. And again, because people like to do business with people with similar interests as well. Okay, you connect on that, the similar interest, and then they go, "Oh, Chris, aren't you a realtor too?" I've been, I inherited my mom's house. I've let it kind of just go for a year. I need to do something with it. What do you think? When's the best time of year to sell? You started the relationship because you're interested in something else. And again, it's something you enjoy doing too. And they see that you enjoy doing something they enjoy doing. And that's a great way to endear yourself to people. HOA meetings. And this is, again, I'm really bad about this, so every single meeting within your HOA. So if you have you live in a neighborhood, you have an HOA, you should be attending every meeting. And you should be telling people, because a lot of times stuff comes up about resale and all this kind of stuff. And then you kind of say, "Hey, I'm a realtor, and this is what way I see it." And then you'll start being seen as the realtor within the neighborhood. The other part about the HOA meetings is this is going to be a great way to get that information, which we'll get to in just a second. People that live within the neighborhood. Okay. And then number 8, door knocking and door hangers. I'm not a big person of that. When someone sees a 6'4", 250-pound person coming up to their door, sometimes it might be a little intimidating or something like that. Or they,
ginger, Dave. Nobody's intimidated by a ginger.
You just never know. Now, one of the things I would do is door hangers. So if I get a new listing and do a door hanger where I'm doing an open house. So if I got a listing within my neighborhood and then I'm going to do an open house, I'll do a little door hanger, put it on there and just say, "Hey, come join me at the open house and find out what's going on in your neighborhood." I'm not a big door knocker, just from a security standpoint, things like that. But if you don't have any problems doing the door knocking, then good for you. It's definitely a great way of doing it, and it's an inexpensive way of doing it. Okay. So
Good way to get your steps in.
Next thing we're going to talk about is how do we get this data? Okay. So there's different ways. So when we first started, I would go to our assessor's office. And back then, we didn't have it online. We actually had to go into the assessor's office, print off or take photos. Actually, we didn't have phones then either. We didn't have phones either back then.
With any luck, they let us copy them.
Yeah, or they would do these dot matrix printers and they would print stuff out.
We used to get CDs.
Oh, that's right. You'd have to pay for the CD for the information. So you can go to your local assessor's office. Now you can actually get on BSA. And you can
Michigan based,
but you can most of this stuff it's online. who the neighbors are. If there's another neighborhood that you want, you can go into the neighborhood, get the address and the person who owns it. And it's one of the best ways to get current information of who the actual homeowner is. Okay.
Again, you can, a lot of this all comes right out of your, I think it's RPR. Probably
Yeah,
everybody
you
has
get an RPR also, but the RPR is not going to be as on the money as the assessor's office. Assessor's office will always have the best information. HOA rosters. So when you go to those HOA meetings, or if you like my particular neighborhood, they send out a
roster
what's those
email.
Yeah, like brochures. What is that called? You send out the 3-4 page thing. I can't remember. Newsletter. Yeah, so they send out a newsletter every 3 months, but I can see all the members on that. We actually have a HOA roster that they send out, so everybody knows who's where. So that's another way to do it.
They also have websites and stuff now too. So
and then direct mail companies. So a lot of these companies that you can, there's a bunch of different ones that Real Broker belongs to. I would Google direct mail companies with addresses because a lot of these are going to be more geared toward your particular area, but they'll have the addresses, but just be aware they're not going to be up to date. The other part is that, if you want to, for the phone calls and stuff like that, you can do Mojo Dialer, you can do RedX, you can do a lot of those types of things also. Okay. And then number 4, like I said, if you want, let's say you've got a zip code and there's 2,000, 3,000 people in the zip code, do an every door direct mail. It's going to be half the cost of sending out a postcard. You can hit the whole area. And it's an extremely inexpensive way to hit neighborhoods. Like I said, I sent out 9,300 postcards in the large ones for about $3,500. Okay. So a lot of you probably cannot afford that. A lot of times I can't either, and I get it. But my whole thing is a lot of times you can't afford not to. So if you want to take on a larger farm, every door direct mail. And if you don't know what EDDM is just, Google it and then talk to your post office about it as well.
Right. Yeah, time out. And it's almost noon and I don't want to go drag this out. So direct mail companies, if you find a good direct mail company, they will make EDDM a whole lot easier for you. EDDM is kind of a pain in the ass. You still have to print your stuff, right? You get an option and we send out 9.5 by 6.5 or something like that. It's not an inexpensive print job to begin with, right? So you got something to print. Then you gotta, if you're going straight to the post office, you gotta package them in 50. What happens with these things, these 50 postcards, is they're handed to mail carriers. The mail carrier's job is to put one in everybody's mailbox. So it's just like, but it doesn't get sorted into their mail. So they have to remember every time. And I've been places where I've found packets of 50 sitting in the ditch where I used to walk. Not fun, very frustrating, but it goes by routes, by your mail carrier's route. So when you say, I want to do just my subdivision, it may be 3 routes. It may be 2 routes and 1 route that hits way the heck up north. And however, the post office, in their incredible wisdom, has figured out these people are going to walk or drive. So the thing that I would do, and what we do, is we have an amazing direct mail company. They do the packing, the bundling, the delivering to the post office, the printing. So you're going to find somebody, because we did, but first few times, remember we stood there and did 50 packages and put them in rubber bands and
we had to put these things in tri-fold them, put them in plastic trays, take them to the post office.
No, that was back when we actually used the Celine. That was before EDDM. Even with EDDM, yeah, we used to fold paper and it was fun. Drive down Celine, but the EDDM, we sat there and put those postcards in packets of 50, remember, and then took them to the post office. It's a pain in the ass. if you can find a really, that's not your highest and best use by any means. That's not going to make you your best money. The best money is when,
you're getting belly to belly
yeah,
with somebody.
getting with someone. Even if you have somebody really great artistically. I mean, AI can do your canvas shit now. Oops, bad word. Whip it, and put it together. Get consistent with what your message is on that postcard. It got to look the same every time. The only thing that
you're talking about that.
Okay,
next.
go ahead.
So I think
the only thing we change is our story.
You led into this, so let's make it nice.
How about that?
Yeah, we don't want to hold you up for too long, too. So I'm going to kind of go through this, but this is extremely important as far as the must-dos when geographically farming, okay? The first one is huge. It's make a 12-month commitment to do it, okay? And the reason for that is that reticular activating system. And what that means is every time you send something out, I mean, from any one of those sources that we were talking about, they may delete the email, they may throw away the postcard, things like that, but people see it, okay? And it does go in their subconscious. But let's say they're not thinking about buying or selling real estate that time, okay? Then it's not going to do anything with them. But let's say, 4 months down the road, they just got a call that they're being transferred to Tennessee, and they need to, get down to Tennessee to look for housing, and they need to get their house on the market as soon as possible. And then Chris, because he's been consistent in sending out his mail or email and stuff like that, gets in front of them that day. And then now what ends up happening is now that he's thinking about moving, everything that comes within his consciousness now is coming to the forefront. Anything related to real estate, he's globbing onto the potential seller, okay? And so what he's going to see is if Chris has been consistent and gets in front of him, just go, I've gotten 4 or 5 of these, I believe, from Chris. He must do a lot of business from this area. I got a lot of things. I need to call Chris about doing a market analysis for my house and see if he's the right fit for me. Now, what if Chris had only done it 4 or 5 times, and then someone else did a spray and pray in the neighborhood, and they got in front of that person now that he's thinking about buying or selling? That person's going to get that call. You're not, probably. But since you've been doing it all along and you're consistent, they do recognize it. So even if it goes in their trash or whatever, they do see it. And then, like I said, the biggest thing you want is that when that person decides, or it becomes time to buy or sell, that you are one of the people they call. Okay? And that's why this reticular activating system is huge. And if you're consistent, you will get that business. It's not a matter of if, you will. But if you're not going to make a 12-month commitment, I wouldn't even start. So that's why make sure it's a small enough, farm where you can make a 12-month commitment to it. Okay. The next one is be consistent with timing and branding. And you want to make once a month minimum touch on all these different things. But as Kathy that's why I kind of cut Kathy off. You want to be consistent with your brand. And you want to be consistent on timing. Almost to the point where they expect that they're going to get something from Chris the first week every month. Okay. And then you want to make sure that your brand stays in front of them. For me, it's DMA Real Estate. That's my brand. For you as individual realtors, it's yourself. Okay. The next one is you must get to know everything about the area. Become the expert of your geographical farm. Become the Kleenex of your geographic farm. So you want, when someone asks you a question about what's going on in the neighborhood, you want to know what the sales are. You want to know what the ones that expired that didn't sell. You want to know what's currently active. So when you get a call, you're gonna speak like you're the expert about the area. And like we talked about, if you do all these marketing things and you do it consistently with your brand, they will think of you, and you want to make sure the end goal is you want to be called every time they think about buying or selling real estate. If you've done all these different things and you've been consistent, you will get that call. And then the last one is just use multiple geographical farming tools to build your brand and your dominance in your geographic farm area. So you send out a mailing. Let's say you get a listing. Now they see your sign. Then you do an open house, and you might do circle marketing or door hangers. Come see me at the open house. Now they see you at an open house on a Sunday where a lot of realtors aren't, and they see that you're working. Yeah, then you got your open house signs, and then you sell it. And then now you got a sold topper with your brand on it, right? And then you send out just sold in the neighborhood. Do you see how this can lead to future listings and things like that? So what ends up happening is now, and you do that again. I mean, like I said, I got one listing that led to 2 more listings. I use those 2 listings to get 5 listings. I use those 5 listings to get, 6, 7 listings, and then exponentially just grows. And then anyone that the name of it was called Mill Point. My father pronounces my last name as Miller. People would jokingly change the name of the subdivision to Miller Point. And it was called Mill Point. So they would say, this is Miller Point because Dave owns it. And that was because we did all these things and we became the Kleenex of that neighborhood. Does this all make sense?
One really quick thing. So this multiple tools thing, huge. We, is our example, the same place that we send in everything where Dave lives. Find something not real estate related in that world that you can be a part of. We sponsor a small theater production company in Pinckney, Michigan. It's just ridiculously expensive, but we get free tickets.
Well,
And what do you think we do with those free tickets? We make sure those people know our name is in every program. Our name is up on the marquee and the front of the theater.
when they do the actual presentation, they say we want to, in our season sponsor is DMA Real Estate.
Over their website.
And we're also sending stuff out into email saying, hey, we've got free tickets available.
Yep.
Would you like to go? And so in Pinckney, Michigan is not a very cultural place. So the fact that we've got something it's called Pinckney Players, it's one of the things that we can sponsor. So we keep our name in front of people, and it's not that we're asking for business. We're also contributing back to our community. Okay, so it serves 2 purposes: branding, so that they think of us, but we're also, we're not asking for something, we're giving something to the community.
It's like my little community, it's a lake community, and we do music on the lake in the summer, whole series for 4 months. And if you don't think that gets blasted on those everywhere, it's very small community compared to Dave's even, and we're everywhere that we can be. It's not expensive, and it's not real estate driven. It's I'm giving, give. So that's, I think it's just one of the biggest key things you can do. Even if it's just, trunk or treat in your town, join your Lions clubs and make sure those people, my town's very, very goofy. So that's the Lions Club essentially runs my town. But it's great.
So that's kind of the main parts of it. Any questions about any of the stuff that we talked about? Was this helpful information, or was this is more commonsensical that, hey, does this all make sense? Is the information relevant for you?
It all makes sense to me. I will say I'm kind of overwhelmed by the amount of support here through Reel and through these connections that, we're all making through these webinars and things like that. I find that to be honestly unbelievable. I didn't expect to have this much support and context, and I don't really know exactly how to say that, but
you said it perfectly. It's our secret sauce. I mean, so many companies, they compete against each other. We is bigger than I, and we're all in this together. We're just one big ass family is what it is. And that's why Kathy just left you our email. So if you need to reach out to us directly and ask us specific questions, we're here to help out any way that you need us.
I will talk about geographic farming till the cows come home.
It's something that
thank you both, David and Kathy. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If there's anything you want, just reach out. We just respond. We're weird that way.
Will do.
Cool.
Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Bless you guys. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.